Hello!
This year's bloody mental, isn't it? It's also Mario's 35th anniversary! Woo! I mean, we didn't get anything until September, but the point is, next year, it's Zelda's 35th anniversary. So this video is going to be looking at 5 things that would be cool for Nintendo to do next year. I don't actually think everything on this list is going to happen. It's more stuff that I think would be cool for Nintendo to do on Zelda's 35th anniversary. That being said, they are mostly games, but it doesn't matter. So before next year comes around and they hopefully don't wait till September like they did this year with Mario, hopefully they announce things straight away. But until then, we can speculate, because the best thing about anything is when it hasn't happened yet, and you can get excited about all the things that might happen before you're inevitably disappointed with what actually gets announced. But until then, it's all really exciting. So let's just stay in that. Let's just stay in. I'm going to create a little bubble, and you're going to come into the bubble, and I'm going to be like, wouldn't it be good if this happened? And you'd be like, yeah.
Number 5!
So this year we saw Nintendo release a bunch of things for Mario. Some were really cool and interesting and fun for all the family, and some are fun for a limited time only. I'm talking about Super Mario 3D All-Stars, because it disappears in March. It's a bit fucking weird. And Zelda's had a bunch of 3D games too. They've already had a few remakes here and there, but they've been scattered across the realm of Nintendo's various handhelds and home consoles. So why don't we unite the poor buggers? There's been loads of speculation on if we'll get an Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask pack, or a Twilight Princess Wind Waker pack, or they're going to do both. I mean, they've got to do some. They can't do none, so they have to do some. Or maybe they'll just go mental and be like Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and Link's crossbow training. But I say, smack them all on one bundle. Let's celebrate in style. Make it limited if you want. As long as I get my copy, you can get rid of it the next day. While incredibly unlikely, I think it'd be cool to have all the remade Zelda games in one place. They can have a nice little showcase on the menu and have a bunch of fun facts. Basically everything they didn't do with Mario's bundle. All those games are brilliant, and it just makes sense to have all the great Zelda games come over to the Switch for me to play. Me specifically. No one else gets it. Just me. Moving on. Either way, I want some 3D ports. I want to play 3D games on the Switch. Do it, Nintendo. Do it.
Number 4!
If there's one thing that's generally quite terrible, it's when they try and take video game properties and do anything else with them. Like movies. Or animated series.
Excuse me?
No! Stop it! But we're kind of getting to a point now where that's not so much of an issue now. People like to make things that are like the things that people like now. So video game adaptations are getting a little bit better when it comes to movies. Not great, still not great, but better. And there's a couple of things on Netflix that have taken video game things and turned them into animes and TV series and stuff. I haven't seen them all. I've seen some of the episodes of Castlevania. It's pretty good. So why don't we have an anime style series based on The Legend of Zelda? You could go a number of different routes with it. You could have a quite atmospheric style show where Link doesn't talk, but maybe has a companion like a Navi or a Midna to help with explaining what's happening, because, he doesn't talk. And they're just wandering around through Hyrule, doing stuff, helping people out, maybe a dungeon or two, before eventually moving on to the heavier Ganon storyline. So we could just be wandering around and then, ooh, there's the thing over here, go into there. And then things, and then he fights, and he solves puzzles, and he does stuff, and then his little witty friend says some stuff, and he kind of just doesn't say anything to it. I don't know, I think it'd be interesting if it was just this weird, atmospheric, nice-looking show. I don't know, I'm not going to write a full pitch for it, but you get the point. Another way you could go is a full voice cast, tons of characters, and just jump straight into the main plot, with Ganon taking over and either have Link rescuing Zelda, or have Link and Zelda having to go on an adventure together. Again, that's all I've got. Just use your imagination. I should have just said Zelda anime and let you fill in the blanks. But the most important thing is, not live action. That would be terrible. There's no conceivable way that could end well for anyone ever in the history of life. Take the animated series from Zelda and just make it really good. Have the concept of Link and Zelda are trying to survive in Hyrule, and just make it good though. Just take it from this and just bring it over here. Because if you do another animated series, it has to be good, otherwise it will just never.
Number 3!
If you've seen the Breath of the Wild documentary, they go through how they came up with the concepts for Breath of the Wild, and to do that, they came up with a little engine that was based on the original Legend of Zelda on the NES to test out all their ideas, and they show footage of it, and it's really interesting. What if we got a full proper sequel to the original NES Zelda game in the style of this little tech demo thing? I know there was Zelda 2, but generally speaking, it wasn't really a sequel in terms of story. So essentially, do what you did with Link Between Worlds, where it was a sequel to Link to the Past, with the same world, but they had different dungeons and stuff. And we have another adventure as 8-bit Link, but this time, he can do a bunch of cool stuff, like in Breath of the Wild, and not just get killed by a bunch of annoying monsters. That's something, surely. They did a Battle Royale Mario game this year, where there was 35 people playing Mario simultaneously. Surely you can do my idea. Have different dungeons with more modern game design, add in some story details. That'd be a fun little addition to the timeline, because the first two kind of exist in this weird corner of the timeline, since the Zelda zeitgeist hadn't really been established yet. You could go back and rework it retroactively through the sequel, and I know what you're thinking, and I'll accept the job, Nintendo. I'll be your new chief of magic ideas.
Number 2!
Now, if I told you that on the Super Nintendo, Nintendo made a turn-based RPG out of one of its two main properties, we've got Zelda, a fantasy action-adventure where you collect different swords and upgrade your equipment and all this stuff, and then you've got Mario, a plumber who jumps on mushrooms. Which one did you think Nintendo made a turn-based RPG out of? It's Mario! What? And while those games weren't bad at all, in fact they're very good, why don't we right or wrong next year and finally give Zelda a turn-based RPG? I think it'd be an interesting take on the Zelda franchise, and Nintendo seem well up for that, since they binned everything they did before for Breath of the Wild. Though understand, I'm not saying that there should be a mainline Zelda game, just a fun, different spin-off style one. It's got all the elements there already, and there's so many characters to pull from for your team. Link's a warrior class, Zelda would be a white mage, probably. You could have Zoras, Gorons, and Koroks fill a few different classes, not to mention the Ritos and the various companions through the years. Tingle! Tingle could be there, for whatever reason you need to create to have him there. Or you could just go full job system and Link can be a black mage and Zelda could be a warrior. That would be amazing. You could explore Hyrule in a different kind of way. Not that Hyrule's the same in any other game, but it'd just be good. A turn-based Zelda RPG, I think, would be really interesting. Another idea I had before it was announced was to have a Fire Emblem style game to play out the events of the Great Calamity before Breath of the Wild. Again, a fun way to incorporate some more classic RPG elements into the game, but then Age of Calamity got announced, so that looks pretty good too. But it's no idea from the Chief of Magic Ideas.
Number 1!
You'll probably notice when I was talking about the ports of the 3D games, I failed to mention one in particular, Skyward Sword. Not because it's rubbish, because it's amazing. A game that's very divisive and probably played a big part in Nintendo completely switching gears to make Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword released in 2011. That's almost 10 years ago. Okay, well, on the 10th anniversary, let's get a full HD remake. I didn't mention it for a port because I think it deserves more than that. I loved it. People say it's too handholdy and the motion controls didn't work. I never had a problem with that. I didn't notice. And Skyward Sword is just a really great game. The music in it is fantastic. Like, it's some of the best Zelda music ever, and that's always hard to say because any Zelda music ever is always the best Zelda music ever. So doing a full HD remake of Skyward Sword is definitely number 1 on my list. I think it just works, it makes sense. So similar to Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD ports, get those rough edges nice and smooth because the Wii wasn't exactly known for its great graphics, and that was fine for the time, but since it's the only 3D game not to get a full HD remake,
It's time.
plus you can do the same thing you did with Wind Waker and get rid of the parts people didn't really like, the handholdy stuff or whatever. By the way, I really enjoyed the Wind Waker Triforce Shard quest. I don't think they should have got rid, it's just not important. But I would love to get Skyward Sword back with shiny graphics. You can't port new Super Mario Bros. U and not Skyward Sword. Don't be like that, Nintendo, you bastards. Again, it needs re-releasing. It's the only 3D one that hasn't been released. So do it. It'll be good. People will be happy. I will be happy. This is the 3rd time I'm asking you, Nintendo. Make me a game. I want this game.
Do it!
So those are the top 5 things that I would like for the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. Just some things that I think would be cool. I don't think we're going to get a turn-based Zelda RPG, but I do think we're going to get some ports. I really hope that we're going to get the Skyward Sword re-release, and, you know, just, there's a bunch of things that could happen. This would be like a top 30 if we really looked at it closely. I mean, there's the Oracle games. They could re-release them in the style of Link's Awakening. That'd be amazing. They could do the same to A Link to the Past. They could re-release A Link Between Worlds and A Link to the Past at the same time. It's just endless. But those are the top 5 things I think would be cool. So thanks for watching. If you think of anything that you would like for the 35th anniversary of Zelda, tell me down below. No one ever comments down there, and it's really lonely. It's bloody cold. Keep me warm, winter nights, and subscribe as well. If you haven't subscribed, just do that. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week when we're doing more things for Zelda month. Zelda's great. Look at it. Look at all the stuff. It's bloody everywhere.